I am so excited to announce that iDriveAClassic is now sponsored by Adrian Flux, one of the UK's leading classic car insurers. If you're looking for classic car insurance, I've popped a link to Adrian Flux in the description box below. Hi guys, it's Steph from iDriveAClassic, and today I'm back with one of the most iconic classic cars that Vauxhall ever made. It's the Vauxhall PA Cresta. Very excited to show you this car. It's beautiful both inside and out, and today is going to be a real occasion. If you haven't watched an iDriveAClassic video before, we'll show you around the outside, the inside, we'll take you for a drive, and we'll even show you how this column change works. So buckle up, because we're about to take out one of the most special cars we've ever had on iDriveAClassic. When we covered the Vauxhall Victor last year, and in fact after watching that, many of you requested this, so that's why we've got this today. We talked about how the GM-owned Vauxhall of this era had really strong American styling, and they were very bold in bringing this to the UK market in a time where rationing was just ending and the country as a whole was far more stiff upper lip than flashy duotone paint, excess chrome, fins and all the exciting bits that are on this particular car. And I mean, gosh, doesn't this car just really take the whole Americana vibe to the absolute max? Which is funny because at the time in the UK there was a slight wariness of American influence in Britain. People thought it was a bit flashy, a bit crass, which meant that putting something like this Cresta into the market was going out there with the knowledge that they were producing a car which a segment of the market share were going to be absolutely horrified at. It was sold as a car with a clean aerodynamic styling of tomorrow. The company was looking forwards in that space age futuristic way that Plymouth were doing, so we referenced their car of the future in the Plymouth Fury video. If you're into American cars, you might want to watch that one after you've watched this. Now, the Cresta was made from 1957 to 1962, and the PA Cresta sold an impressive 173,000 units, and it's sometimes referred to as one of the Vauxhall Sixes, due in part to the six-cylinder engine under the bonnet. And what an engine it was! Because on this one, because it's a later one, it's the 2.6 litre six-cylinder Vauxhall engine. So we've got 113 brake horsepower, and it was the engine that was used in both the Velox and the Cresta. The engine itself was a modern square design. It had wedge-shaped combustion chambers, aluminium rocker posts, high compression cylinder head gasket, heavy-duty alloy main and big end bearings, integral valve guides, two-piece exhaust valves, and then just to finish it off, you've got the positive crankcase ventilation with filtered air and consumption of vented fumes. We're very proud of this because they put all of this in the buyer's brochure guide. But with great power comes greater need for stopping potential, and with that, Vauxhall offered a disc brake optional extra upgrade on these PA Crestas. Now you might be saying, well Steph, disc brakes are completely normal in today's market. But at the time, it was a bit of a revelation, and it's one of those things that I would badge as a nice to have. If you hadn't paid for this extra, which incidentally was fitted to this particular car at time of purchase and is still retained, it would have been 10-inch drums to front and 9-inch drums to rear. The disc brake upgrade was available from 1961. Which may be due in part to the fact that Ford had put them as standard on their Zodiacs and Zephyrs. Suspension is another well thought out consideration on these, and to the front we've got independent front wheel springing, long and short wishbone units with double telescopic shock absorbers, and there is a stabiliser bar which connects the lower units. The whole assembly is mounted on a steel cross member and bolted with rubber insulation to body chassis. You'll get to see when we go out as well that the suspension on this is fantastic. Even today, in fact, much smoother than some of the more modern cars that we take out. Now, the rear suspension is long, wide positive camber springs with double acting telescopic shock absorbers mounted with pronounced inclination. I can't believe I managed to get all of this from a brochure given to people at the time. You don't get this much information nowadays. Now, if you'd bought this from new, there were 3 transmission units you could have chosen from. So you could have chosen from the all-synchro 3-speed box, the Hydromatic, which was essentially a 3-speed automatic transmission and designed to suit the 2.6, and it was said to glide from slow to fast and fast to slow. And lastly, the all-synchro with overdrive. Now, this car, when it was sold new, was sold with the all-synchro 3-speed, but the current owner has updated it, so it now sports the all-synchro with overdrive. The overdrive sits on 2nd and 3rd, and I will demonstrate this for you later on, and the extra gears in the sale brochure were referred to as overdrive top and overdrive second. Top being for petrol saving and cruising on long journeys, and overdrive second being for traffic or overtaking at pace on hills. It's also worth noting, as something that completely slipped my mind on the test drive, there is no choke on this car, which again for the era is absolutely wild. Buyers of these fine automobiles were told that the choke was automatically set for quick warm-up when starting from cold, and would cut out automatically when the engine reached temperature. Again, this may seem elementary to drivers of today, but compared to its competition at the time, this was cutting-edge technology. Now, whilst all of this is fantastic, it's really the look of the car which sells it to the passer-by. And for customers picking the Cresta from new and wanting a 2-tone colour choice, there were 9 colourways to choose from. This particular car is Glade Green, Alpine Green, and the interior duotone leather is Sylvan Green and Deep Sea Green. I know we've spotted that already, but we'll certainly see more of that when we get into the car later on. If you've only ever seen a Velox before, you'll also notice there's some small differences outside as well as inside. Things like the stainless steel surrounds on the windows, the 2-tone paint finish, the white wall tyres with polished aluminium ring embellishers, and so on and so on. Internally, you've got various other things as standard in this that you wouldn't have had on the Velox, but we'll show you that in the dash walk around. The wraparound screen styling on this may look familiar to fans of American cars, because it takes a lot of styling cues from the 57 Buick Special, which launched approximately 12 months prior to the PA. But in the UK, this was like nothing else and really stood out a mile in the car park. The wraparound screen, of course, isn't on the earlier cars. I think on the earlier cars it was a 3-piece, but with this being 62, it has got that single-piece glass and smoothed roof panel. And there you have it, a little bit about the PA Cresta. Now, I've never seen one outside of the Special's Ghost Town music video until today, and I'm very excited to take you out. Now, before I introduce you to the owner, Steve, he gave me something special to look at, and I want to show you that next. So let me show you what he gave me. Now, this was something which you only ever saw if you went into the dealership. You've spotted one on your local high street and you're in love. It's time to pop to the dealership and look at a Velox and Cresta. But how do you know which colour to go for? Well, this very, very rare book that would have only been in a dealership certainly did all it could to help you. So as you can see here, you've got these Perspex cards which you hold over different colourways, and it shows you what your dream car would have looked like. I love stuff like this. So they did it for various Vauxhall models, so just wanted to show you that. Now, these are the earlier trim colours and the earlier exterior colours, but I just had to show you this book because it's such a nice bit of history. Now look how it works for the duotone. So you can slide it up for your roof, or you can slide it like that for your duotone. This is incredible. So as you come through, again, it is the earlier Velox trim in here as well, but these are all real swatches. Now, knowing what I know about the printing world, this book would have cost an absolute fortune to make, in a way that we just don't spend on printed literature anymore. And it's incredible because you get a real feel for what your car's going to be like before you actually see the car in front of you. So you've got your different trim levels there, you've got your vinyl, your leather, and that's it in a nutshell really, but nice bit of history that I wanted to show you.
Hi, I'm Steve. This is my 1962 Vauxhall Cresta. I've owned this car since 1985. Originally got into Vauxhalls because of an old hot car magazine that I picked up in 1978. Seems a very long time ago now, but all of a sudden here we are, 2001. I actually own a Vauxhall Cresta. I bought it off a guy called George Holland, who was its second owner. Not too far from where we're standing, just over the other side in Oldham. And it's been a superb car. I've been all over the country in it. Really enjoyed owning it. I mean, my first experience of Vauxhalls was going to pick up a brand new Vauxhall FD Victor with my dad in 1969. It was a beautiful white colour with a lovely cherry red interior, a column change, and I remember him telling me when we went down to pick it up that it was just like Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and wings were going to come out of the sills and we were going to fly home, which compared with the old Ford Classic that we took down to part exchange, it probably did.
Coming into this Cresta today was just such an occasion because, of course, the car is from that golden era of motoring, that 50s and 60s era where when you bought a car, it was an aspiration and it was buying into a dream. And buying something like this was certainly a dream because, of course, it came, as we said, on the walk around at the end of that rationing period. People were tired and cars were grey and black and muted colours, and then the Cresta came in and it just delivered something totally different. And in fact, it won many, many people over, including a lady that we've all heard about, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth. Now, the Queen actually still, I believe, owns and owned a friary estate. So she's got the estate version, which I imagine was wonderful for carrying around all her little corgis. Now I wanted to give you a little bit of a tour around the inside of the car because if, like me, you've never seen a Cresta, apart from online, I wanted to give you a bit of a feel for what it's like inside. So first of all, we've got this French bench seat. Now when it was sold, it was advertised as carrying 6 people. And if I'm honest, I think you could. I mean, you'd have to be pretty good friends, but it's certainly not the squish that it is trying to get 3 people in the back of a Morris Minor. Could probably get 4 kids in the back or 3 decent sized adults. One of the things that surprised me when I got into this and I was looking around was this wood trim, which actually isn't wood trim at all, it's actually metal. But one of the great things about it is that it's survived very, very well. So as you can see, it runs through from the dash through to the top of those inner door cards. And because it's that metal and it's not that latest 60s and 70s plasticky vinyl-y stuff, it hasn't bubbled, it hasn't peeled, so it still looks like a very smart car inside, especially with this duotone leather, which of course was an option. You could have got, it was like a nylon, I think it's called vinylide. It's essentially a fancy name for vinyl. You could have chosen that, or you could have chosen this leather, and I'm so pleased that somebody's chosen the leather because I think it's probably lasted a lot better than some of the vinyl interiors because they tend to sag, and leather is so much more malleable in the long term. So walking you through what we've got inside here, we've got the glove box over here. As you can see, that's made from metal, so you can really get a much better feel there for that wood style metal that I was talking about. Coming into the centre, we've got the radio. That was actually an optional extra, but I'll tell you what wasn't, the heater. So if you've ever seen a Velox, I believe in the Velox it was something you had to pay extra for, but if you went for the Cresta it came as standard, just like the cigar lighter over to the right there. Coming in front of us, we've got this chrome surround, so you would have seen this on a couple of other cars we've tested, things like the Corsair that had it on as well. So we just give that a press there, and as you can see, the horn is very authoritative. Now, whilst the styling inside here is super fancy, everything is also very straightforward and simple. So, as I said, really is my favourite era of motoring. So what we've got in front of us there, we've got a speedo. The ticker tape on that changes colour as we go up through the speeds. We'll show you that when we're driving. You've got mileometer there. water gauge and fuel gauge. Over to our left hand side here, we've got indicator stalk, exactly as you'd expect. And coming down, we've got these two chrome pulls. So as you can see, the first one there, pull it once for side and twice for main beam there. Going down into the wipers. So as you can see, you kind of pull this out and twist it, and that is your vacuum wash. That's not working, but I'll show you what the alternative is for that now. And as well as that, you have got your 2-speed wipers, so just turn it there. Coming over to our right hand side, we have got this little Bakelite button that replaces the windscreen washer, and we've got our key there. Now I know that when we took out the Victor, we talked about how it's got that auxiliary feature that you can twist round. It's got it on this as well. We've got our umbrella handbrake, because of course this is a column change. We'll show you that before we go driving. And that's kind of it in a nutshell, really. There are two other things that I want to show you before we show you this column change. And the first one is the quarter light. So if you've got a much newer car, so say probably from about the 70s onwards, you may not have seen a quarter light before. So these are very neat, little button push. Much less easy to manipulate than some of the quarter light catches, which can sometimes mean that thieves can get into your car very easily. So very well thought out. And the last thing that I want to show you is something that I think is incredibly well thought out, is the positioning of the clock. So it's up here. Now you might say to me, Steph, why is that so well thought out? Well, I'll tell you, because with most cars, especially of this era, the clock is down here or it's over here, which means that unless you've got a wristwatch on, the only person who's going to know the time is the driver. But by having it up here, it's positioned so that every single person in the car, no matter where they're sitting, can see what the time is. Unfortunately, it doesn't work, but I have been reliably told that that is quite a common quirk with these, that they don't always work nowadays. But look, this car is far older than I am and in far better shape, so I'm not going to be critical of her. So we'll show you this column change, and then we'll start the car up for you. So remember, we have got that very delicious 2.6 straight 6 under the bonnet, and it sounds rather fruity. So let's show you this column change and crack on. Column change on this is pretty simple. So pull it towards you and down for first, come back up into the centre, and if you feel, it's like a double step up into second, down into third, and then pull it towards you and we come back up into reverse. Now I'll quickly show the overdrive switch as well. Now let's get us started up. If you haven't watched an IDRIVEACLASSIC video before, we shoot this from the inside and the out. So we'll give her a bit of gas as well, or petrol as we call it over here. That is so nice. I mean, I don't know if you can hear from home, but it's very quiet. Let me take you to the back because it sounds brilliant from the outside. So let's head back there too. Now this is all very exciting because I've not yet driven this car. So for anybody worrying about seatbelts weren't fitted to these at point of sale. So I'm not going to be wearing one today. So don't panic, I've not forgotten. It merely is that we don't have one available. So remember, we're going to be setting off in first, coming down, and we've also got that overdrive on second and third. So I'll try and show you that as we go for a drive. I wasn't expecting that column change to be quite so sweet, And in fact, it's far less painless than some of the other stuff I've taken out, like the Simca. That was absolutely horrendous. And I'd say it's up there with that. Was it the Zephyr that we took out last summer? It's like that. So when I took this car out, first of all, I thought, gosh, it feels very wide, very long, and I'm slightly worried about taking her out for a drive. But actually, once you're behind the wheel, things all seem to magically slot into place. So when I first got invited to drive this car, I thought, oh gosh, it's jolly long, jolly wide, and I bet it's going to be an absolute pig to steer. But honestly, once we've got inside, I was very nervous at first because I thought it's so much bigger than anything I'm used to. And in fact, the biggest SUV that they've got in the Vauxhall range at the moment, I believe, is only actually, I mean, you look at this and you think it's enormous, but this is only 3 inches longer. With all those airbags and safety bits inside, I bet it's not much wider either. Now, when I told all my friends that I was driving this car today, they all said, oh, that is real Americana, you're going to feel so special sat behind the wheel. And I think that's one of the things that I can tell you at home that goes far beyond all the technical. I can tell you that the turning circle is 39 foot. I can tell you about the suspension and all the rest of it. But what does it actually feel like to drive? I'm being quite cautious. I don't know why. I think it's because it's a car I'm very not familiar with, so I'm not putting my foot down, and these roads are quite windy because I wanted to take you out somewhere today that was a little bit pretty. And it's just the specialness of the drive. It's the experience that overpowers everything else. I mean, it's taking the bumps like a dream. It's quite bouncy. Although you can hear the road noise coming through the car, you can't necessarily feel it. Now with that 2.6 under the bonnet, we have got a fair bit of power. So we're looking at, I've read different reports of the top speed on this, but I have heard on the grapevine that owners have had these up to nearly 100 miles an hour. So she's not the slowest thing on the roads. And she keeps up with everything quite nicely. Steering is quite precise, as you can see here. It's not like some of these cars where you're like this, and it feels responsive enough that it's quite pleasurable. I think the thing that I take away from this, compared to other cars that I've driven from around this time, is that this is very quiet and very up together. So this got restored, of course, 2005. So I would expect it to start rattling a bit and having a few creaks and moans. And it honestly hasn't. It's very up together. And I know a lot of people are going to rush to tell me in the comments section that they always rot it out. But this example here, we've got no knocks, we've got no rattles, we've got no bangs, which means that it's a lot quieter than some of its competitors, because of course it was coming up against things like the Westminster. This feels far less drafty and far more glamorous. And I don't know, I think it's a car which perfectly encapsulates that golden point of 50s and 60s motoring, where driving wasn't driving. It wasn't about getting from A to B as quickly and as aggressively as you can. It was about the full package and the full experience. And I'm so overjoyed that I love driving it as much as I like looking at it, because there are some cars that I've taken out on the channel that have been beautiful to look at, but when you're behind the steering wheel, they just lose everything that you loved about looking at them. And this one just is the full deal. It's incredible. And I think at the time, if you could have had the Velox or the Cresta, I think this was around £70 to £100 more. I think I would have gone for that heater, I would have gone for the optional extras, and I would have come up to the Cresta. It's very special in a way that not many cars are. And I'm struggling to pick a point that I don't like about it. And I would say, even though we're only in the first part of 2021, I'm going to put my hand on my heart and say, I think this is probably going to be one of the favourite cars that we have on IDRIVEACLASSIC this year. Gosh, I can't stop smiling. So that's it from me today. I hope you've enjoyed the video. It's been a very interesting car to take out, one that I knew absolutely nothing about until I started doing a bit of research. Thank you very much. There was a Vauxhall website I used. They were very helpful, and also thank you very much to my friend Andrew, who gave me lots of information and made sure I did this car the justice it deserves. So until next time, take care and drive safely.